Have you ever paused long enough to feel the weight of your own life? Not the chaos, not the expectations, but you, the person behind the noise, behind the plans, behind the smile. We live in a world that rewards speed, but what if the wisdom you're looking for only arrives when you slow down? What if the answers aren't in more, but in less? Less pretending, less pressure, less performance. Just you and your truth. Here, in Chrono Verse, we don't chase perfection, we search for meaning. In quiet thoughts, in broken moments, in the lessons life whispers when we finally start listening. This is not just a video, this is a return to something real. You ready? Sometimes, the things we search for the most are hidden in plain sight. We look for peace in new places, new people, new promises. But often, the answers are already around us. Or inside us. We just forget how to listen. So today, let's take a breath and return to simplicity. Because life was never meant to be this complicated, but we were never meant to run so fast we missed the sky. We were never meant to forget how the sun feels on our skin, or how comforting silence can be. But we did. Somewhere along the way, we replaced presence with pressure, and now we're all just catching up to something we can't even name. It's okay. Take a pause. Let this be that moment where you feel life, not just think about it. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a 5-year plan today. You just need to come back to what matters. A calm mind is more powerful than a busy one. It notices more. It reacts less. It sees clearly where noise once lived. And when your mind clears, even for a moment, you begin to hear something, the quiet truths that life has been whispering all along. You'll realize that happiness was never in the future. It was in how you lived your present. That joy didn't hide in big events, it danced in small details. In the way someone laughed unexpectedly. In the smell of bread from a nearby cafe. In the silence after a long walk when your heart felt soft. But we don't notice those things when we're chasing the next thing. We scroll, we rush, we compare. And every day starts to feel like the last one. No wonder we feel tired, even when we've done nothing. No wonder we feel lonely, even surrounded by others. We've forgotten how to be with ourselves. So here's a truth not many talk about. You are allowed to do less. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to slow down. Productivity means nothing if it empties your soul, and being busy isn't a badge of honor, it's often a symptom of disconnection. What if we made room for stillness? What if we replaced hustle with healing? Would you be afraid of falling behind, or would you finally feel like you're catching up with yourself? You see, the version of you that's calm, focused, and content. It's not far away. It's already here, just hidden under layers of noise and pressure and fear. Peel those layers away gently. Talk to yourself like someone you love, not like someone you're constantly trying to fix. You don't need to improve yourself to be worthy of rest. You don't need to reach a goal to deserve peace. Peace isn't something you earn. It's something you allow. And maybe you're not tired because you've done too much. Maybe you're tired because you've ignored what your heart needed. Maybe it's time to come home to yourself. Do you remember the last time you truly listened to yourself? Not just your thoughts, your truth. The voice that says, this path doesn't feel right. I miss that version of me. I need space to breathe. Those aren't just feelings. They're signals. And life is always sending you signals. The tension in your chest when you're in the wrong place. The joy that returns when you're with certain people. The deep sigh after a meaningful conversation. The peace in your stomach when you finally make a choice that feels honest. Don't ignore those things. They are more real than most advice you'll get. They come from a place inside you that remembers who you are. Before the world told you who to be. You don't have to be perfect to start over. You don't have to be fearless to try again. You just have to be honest. And maybe. Right now, honesty looks like saying, I don't have it all figured out. And that's okay. In a world obsessed with certainty, honesty is rebellious. And choosing softness when everything tells you to be hard, that's courage. Because it's not weak to rest. It's not weak to care. It's not weak to feel. If anything, the real strength lies in staying kind when life tries to make you bitter. In keeping your heart open after it's been broken. In trusting the process, even when you don't understand the path. And here's something you might not hear enough. You're doing better than you think. Really, you've made it through days you thought you couldn't. You've grown in ways you didn't even notice. You've become more aware, more grounded, more human. And even if you don't feel proud of yourself today, there is a version of you in the past who would be amazed at who you've become. So pause, breathe, let that sink in. Life is not about collecting achievements. It's about collecting moments that feel real. It's about making memories you don't need to post to remember. It's about being present, not perfect. And maybe, if you let go of who you thought you had to be, you'd discover who you've always been. Someone full of depth, full of stories, full of second chances. You are not your mistakes. You are not your doubts. You are not your worst day. You are a soul, learning through experiences. And sometimes, the lesson isn't about fixing anything, it's about remembering what was never broken. So if today feels heavy, let this remind you, you're allowed to begin again. Not because you failed, but because you're growing. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, a shift in perspective, a new boundary, a softer tone with yourself. That counts too. Let this be the day you stop rushing. Let this be the day you stop pretending. Let this be the day you come back to the simplicity of being. Not chasing, not fixing, just being. And in that space you might finally hear the truth. Life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be felt, fully, deeply, honestly, and in the end, maybe that's all we ever needed. Outro, gentle piano fades slowly. This was just the beginning. A return to calm. A reminder that you don't need more, you just need less noise and more truth. Stay with us, because in the next episode of Chrono Verse, we'll explore how our relationships shape our reality and how to create connections that heal, not harm. Until then, breathe deeply, live gently, and remember, you're already enough. Asterisk. People shape us more than we realize, not just the ones who stay, but also the ones who leave. Not just those who love us, but also those who forget us. But life teaches us through people, through moments of connection, of silence, of misunderstanding. And the deepest truths about ourselves are often uncovered through the relationships we build, and the ones we lose. Sometimes, it's in the smile of a stranger that we feel seen. Other times, it's in the silence of someone we love that we feel lost. But all of it matters, because every person we meet reflects a part of us back to ourselves. Some make us feel safe. Some challenge us. Some break us wide open and show us the parts we never knew we needed to heal. The truth is, no one comes into your life by accident. Some people are lessons, some are mirrors, some are bridges, and some are reminders of the love you forgot to give yourself. We often think we need someone to complete us. But the most honest relationships don't complete us, they expand us. They invite us to see ourselves more clearly, to love with fewer conditions, to speak more gently, to stay when it's easier to run, and to walk away when staying would mean losing ourselves. That it takes time to learn that distance is sometimes love in disguise. That letting go isn't always the end, it's sometimes the beginning of self-respect. There are people you will miss forever, but that doesn't mean they were meant to stay. Some hearts come into our lives like seasons. They bring warmth, they bring change, and then they pass. And no matter how tightly you hold on, you can't keep summer in the middle of winter. So, what do you do when someone you love stops showing up? You grieve. Not just the person, but the version of yourself you were with them. You grieve the memories, the moments, the maybes. And then you grow. Quietly, slowly, you realize you were never just half of something. You were always whole. You just forgot how much of yourself you gave away. Sometimes love looks like giving. Other times it looks like returning to yourself. We often talk about red flags in others. But what about the red flags we ignore within? The people-pleasing, the overthinking, the silence when we should speak, the pretending we're okay when we're breaking inside. True connection begins when we stop performing and start being. When we stop waiting for others to validate us and start showing up as we are. You don't have to shrink to be loved. You don't have to say yes to be accepted. You don't have to be soft just to avoid conflict. You just have to be honest. And honesty can feel scary, especially when we've spent so long hiding behind smiles and I'm fine. But real relationships grow in the space where honesty lives. Not perfect words, not perfect timing, just truth spoken with care. Sometimes, you'll speak your truth and people will leave. Let them. The ones who matter will stay, not because you were easy to be around, but because you were real. Real love isn't about never hurting each other. It's about healing together. It's not about always agreeing. It's about always returning. Returning to the conversation, returning to understanding, returning to love, again and again. And even then sometimes, love won't be enough. You'll care, you'll try, and still, the connection will fade. Not every bond is meant to last forever, and that's okay. Some people come to show you how deeply you can feel. Others come to teach you boundaries. Some come to crack your heart open, so light can finally enter. You will outgrow some people. They will outgrow you. This is not failure. This is evolution. Not every goodbye is bitter. Sometimes, it's brave. Sometimes, it's the most loving thing you can do for both of you. And yes, you'll have days where you miss them. When you'll wonder if it could have been different. When you'll replay conversations in your mind like old songs. That's part of healing. Missing doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means it mattered. But don't forget to notice who's still here. The ones who stayed. The ones who text you when you go quiet. The ones who hold space when you fall apart. The ones who speak your name like it's worth something. Cherish them. Show up for them. Not with perfection, but with presence. Love isn't a big gesture. It's the small things. The check-ins, the honesty, the shared silence, the I understand, the I'm here. And maybe most importantly, it's how you love yourself. Because the way you talk to yourself becomes the way you let others talk to you. If your inner voice is cruel, you'll tolerate cruelty from others. If your inner voice is kind, you'll build relationships rooted in mutual care. So be kind even when you're alone. Especially then, because being alone is not the same as being lonely. There is peace in solitude. there is clarity in quiet. And in that space, you learn who you are when no one is watching. So take the time to meet yourself, to listen to your own thoughts without judgment, to sit with your pain without distraction, to hold your own hand when the world feels far. And slowly, you'll begin to trust again. Not because someone promised you they'd stay, but because you promised yourself that you would. This is what it means to grow, to let love in without losing yourself, to give without emptying, to receive without guilt, to love with open hands, not clenched fists. People will come. People will go, but the relationship you build with yourself, that's the one that stays. So make it beautiful, make it honest, make it soft, because how you love yourself teaches the world how to love you. Outro music softens, hopeful tone. Thank you for joining this chapter of Chrono Verse. May this reminder stay with you, that every connection has a purpose, even if it hurts. That love, at its core, is not about holding on, but about growing, together or apart. In the next episode, we'll dive into how failure, loss, and change shape the strongest parts of who we become. Until then, be gentle with your heart, and with every version of you that's still healing. Not everything in life will go the way you plan, and that's not a failure. That's the beginning of wisdom. You will try things that don't work. You will trust people who let you down. You will build something that crumbles overnight. And in those moments you'll ask, why me? But the truth is, life isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. Not for a perfect future, but for a deeper, more grounded you. No one gets through life untouched by pain, and if they say they have, they just haven't lived long enough. Pain is part of the process. So is loss, so is failure, but that's not where the story ends. That's where it begins to matter. You see, growth doesn't happen in easy seasons. It happens in the dark, confusing, heavy moments. The ones you didn't ask for, the ones you thought would break you, but here you are, still breathing, still trying, still carrying pieces of yourself that you didn't even know were strong. Failure teaches you what success never could. It humbles you. It refocuses you. It strips away what doesn't matter. In a world obsessed with winning, failing is seen as weakness. But those who fail are the ones who dared to try. And those who try again, they're the ones who transform. Can't control how people see your setbacks, but you can control what you build from them. Maybe the thing that fell apart wasn't the dream. It was just the version that wasn't meant for you. Sometimes life has to remove what's easy, so it can introduce you to what's real. You'll lose friends along the way. People who once understood you will grow distant. Not because you did something wrong, but because you're growing in different directions. Grieve that. Let yourself miss them. Let yourself cry for what almost was, but don't cling to what no longer fits your future. Loss teaches you the value of presence. It makes you treasure the people who stay. It makes you more patient, more present, more tender. Because once you've seen how quickly something can disappear, you learn to hold it more gently. And change. Change is the silent force behind all evolution. You don't always notice it when it's happening. But one day, you wake up and realize you don't react the way you used to. You no longer crave what once hurt you. You find peace in places that used to bring anxiety. And that's growth. It's not loud. It doesn't always announce itself. But it's there shaping you moment by moment. You might think you're behind, that you're not where you should be. But there's no map for this. No timeline that everyone must follow. Some people find their purpose at 20, others at 50. Some heal quickly. Others take years to feel whole again. There's no right way to rebuild. There's just your way. Let yourself rebuild slowly. Let yourself feel deeply. Let yourself mess up and start over. Progress isn't a straight line. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car. Sometimes it's canceling plans so you can rest. Sometimes it's getting out of bed even when your heart is heavy. Celebrate that too, because the small victories are the real ones. They're the foundation for something unshakable. You are not a failure because something failed. You are not broken because you're grieving. You are not weak because you're scared. You are human. And being human means falling, doubting, hurting, but also getting back up. Also believing again. Also hoping. Even after everything. There will be days when nothing makes sense. When all your effort feels invisible. When you'll question whether you're even on the right path. But keep going. Not because the path is clear, but because your why is real. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to keep showing up for yourself. That alone is a kind of quiet victory. Let the failures refine you. Let the losses remind you what matters. Let the changes reintroduce you to parts of yourself you forgot. You are not the same person you were a year ago. You've survived things you didn't prepare for. You've loved deeply. You've lost quietly. You've stood in the fire and walked out stronger. So don't underestimate what you've already overcome. It's easy to forget how far you've come when you're always focused on how far you still have to go. But pause for a moment. Look back. Look at all the versions of you who didn't give up. Look at all the times you thought it was over, and yet, here you are. That matters. That counts. That's growth in its most honest form. You might not have everything you want yet, but you have something more valuable. The ability to begin again. And that's the real gift of failure, loss, and change. They don't just tear things down. They open new doors. Doors to strength, to wisdom, to resilience, and maybe, just maybe, to a softer, more grounded version of you. Outro, slow calming fade out with subtle strings. You don't need to rush into healing. You don't need to escape the mess, just be in it. Let it shape you. Let it deepen you, because in the end, it's not the perfect moments that build you. It's the broken ones that teach you how to stand taller. In the next episode of Chrono Verse, we'll explore how to build a future that aligns with your truth and how to become the person your younger self needed. Until then, trust your path, honor your pain, and give yourself permission to begin again. You've made it here, through the chaos, through the questions, through the quiet battles no one ever saw. And even if you don't feel it yet, you've already become someone stronger, not perfect, not finished, but wiser, softer, REALER. Sometimes, becoming who you were meant to be doesn't look like success. It looks like simplifying, letting go, saying no without guilt, saying yes to things that once scared you. It's not a loud transformation, it's a quiet unfolding. One day, you just wake up and realize you're not chasing the same things anymore. You no longer want to impress. You want to feel. You no longer want noise. You want peace. And that's growth. Becoming yourself is not a straight path. It's a series of detours. Of wrong turns that teach you something right. Of lost years that weren't wasted, just preparing you for what's next. You learn that clarity doesn't come all at once. It comes in small flashes. Moments when you hear a truth that shakes you. When you suddenly stop pretending. When you finally say, I don't want to live this way anymore. And in that moment, everything changes. Not because your life is suddenly perfect, but because your vision sharpens. You begin to see what matters. You stop chasing approval. You stop waiting for permission. You realize the life you want won't be handed to you. You have to build it, slowly, deliberately, with patience and persistence. You begin building routines that protect your peace. You start choosing people who respect your boundaries. You stop explaining your worth to those who can't see it. You accept that not everyone will understand your path. Some will question your quiets. Some will mock your dreams. Some will leave when your healing no longer entertains their chaos. Let them go. You are not responsible for making everyone comfortable with your growth. You weren't born to stay small. You weren't born to repeat pain in polite ways. You were born to break cycles, to choose differently, to build a life that feels honest, not impressive. And maybe that life is quieter than what you imagined. Maybe it looks like slow mornings and real conversations. Maybe it's less about speed and more about depth. Less about more and more about enough. That's the shift. When you stop measuring your life by what you've achieved and start measuring it by how you feel when you're alone. Do you feel peace in your own presence? Do you feel proud of how you treat others? Do you feel connected to something deeper than distraction? If so, you're on the right path. Even if it's not glamorous. Even if no one sees it but you. The future you want is not a place, a mindset. It's how you show up today. It's in the questions you ask yourself at night. It's in the way you hold yourself when no one's clapping. That future begins now. Not next year. Not when things are perfect. Not when you feel ready. It begins the moment you say, I will not abandon myself anymore. Because that's what most of us do. We leave ourselves behind to make others happy. We silence our needs to maintain peace. We shrink, hoping to be loved more, but you don't have to live like that. You don't have to become invisible to feel worthy. You are allowed to take up space, to speak up, to rest, to change your mind, to choose peace over pressure. And when you do, you'll notice something shift. Your world will feel lighter, your thoughts clearer, your days more intentional. You'll stop rushing toward things that once felt urgent. You'll begin choosing with care who gets your time, where your energy goes, what kind of love you accept. This is where life gets real, where you begin building, not reacting, where you start creating a version of success that actually feels like success, not just success that looks good on paper, but success that feels like a full breath, like waking up excited, like going to sleep in peace. It's possible, even after all you've lost, even if you've been through hell, even if your past feels too heavy to carry forward. You don't have to carry it. You can honor it, learn from it, and leave the rest behind. The next chapter isn't written yet. You get to choose how it begins. You get to write your way out of patterns that never served you. So ask yourself, what do I want to feel more of? What do I want to let go of? Who am I when no one is watching? That person, that real, unfiltered version of you, that's who you were meant to become all along. Not the one chasing trends. Not the one playing roles, but the one who sits with discomfort and still chooses growth. So here's to you, for surviving things that tried to steal your hope, for coming this far without losing your softness, for showing up, even when your heart felt heavy. This is not the end of your story. This is where you begin to write with more honesty, more courage, more light. Let the world meet the version of you that's no longer afraid of change. The version that's no longer waiting for the perfect moment, but building it, moment by moment. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And that truth has always been waiting inside you.